Hello and welcome to the program. Now, after all the drama, waiting games, speculations and political intrigues, Nigeria's main opposition, All Progressives Congress, has unveiled its vice presidential candidate. His name does not really ring a bell in the politics of this country, but Professor Yemi Osinbajo is very well known for his time as the Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice in Lagos State. He will be the running mate of presidential candidate Muhammadu Buhari. His nomination now does not really come as a surprise because his name actually featured prominently among those being tapped for the position when the leadership of the APC held several meetings to settle for Buhari's running mate. Now, Professor Osinbajo is a well-respected lawyer and a senior advocate of Nigeria. He's also a senior pastor of the Redeemed Christian Church of God. He's considered to be a man of integrity. But the big question is, what exactly does he bring to the table for the APC? Joining me now to discuss this is Libros Oshoma, a lawyer and political analyst. Libros, thank you very much for coming on the program.
My pleasure.
And let me just start by asking you that direct question. Now, what exactly does this man bring to the table? Osinbajo, a professor of law and, of course, a pastor.
If you want to look at it from the political angle as politics is played in Nigeria, you would say that politically Osinbajo is not bringing anything apart from his association and relationship with the politics of Tinubu. But if you look at it broadly, you would say that with his wealth of experience and with the kind of reforms that Osinbajo introduced in Lagos, which Lagosians are still benefiting today and which a lot of other states
and you're talking about legal reforms.
Yes, legal reforms. Like the updating of the Lagos State laws of Lagos State, and then even the creation of the Office of the Public Defender that is prevalent in Lagos State now, and then also the introduction of alternative dispute resolution that is a new norm for settling dispute in Nigeria, and most states are adopting. And then also the introduction of the new rules, the new rules to fast track, litigation in Lagos, like front loading that a lot of other states are copying now. If you put all of this together and then marry it with the administration of justice in Nigeria as it is, you would say in that regard that Osinbajo had a lot.
But those are legal. Those are legal reforms. All you've just mentioned now are legal aspects. Governing this country goes beyond executing legal reforms and all of that, because the fact is, whether we like it or not, the vice president could potentially become the president.
Yes,
we saw that in the case of Goodluck Jonathan and Umaru Musa Yar'Adua.
Don't forget that the bedrock of any nation are the legal structures that you have in place. How well these legal structures are entrenched, how well your people can access justice, and how well the legal system takes its course naturally. And so when you have somebody who is well grounded in entrenching legal structures in every facet of governance, then you find it easy. So it's not just about law or the Ministry of Justice per se. It's about the system of governance running on the wheel of legal system. And that's basically what we're looking at here.
What will be your take on this? It's out there in the public that one of the reasons why the APC probably decided to settle for this man is because he's also a senior pastor at the Redeemed Christian Church of God, which of course is a very popular church and has a very huge population.
Necessarily not.
That the APC might have been targeting the followers.
Because even in a house, even in a family, if you remember when Osinbajo was Attorney General under ACN, his brother also was an Attorney General in the PDP government. So it is not for sure that because he's in Redeem, every member of Redeem would vote for him. But just like you have a family where you have people who have different leaning politically. In the same vein, it will be difficult also. Mind you, the incumbent president at the time also went to Redeem to kneel down before the general overseer.
Exactly.
And so you have religion.
Does this make it difficult for the general overseer, for instance, because he's seen to be very close to the president, Goodluck Jonathan, who is running in
now basically the general overseer is will be like a king now. It will be difficult for him to endorse one son against the other, and so he will probably just want to play, a neutral role, telling people to vote their conscience but ensure that you vote. So it is not a plus. But if you look at it from the other angle, the political angle, you'll find out that from 1999 till date, Osinbajo had been, an inner member of the Tinubu's caucus, and so loyalty is a big question here in that caucus. And so, if he had been a member and consistently he had been a close associate of Tinubu, and he's seen as somebody who will not betray and who will not rock the boat and who had been loyal, and then all coupled with the fact that this man is an expert and he's very intelligent and very cerebral. And so we would say that rather than, and then also if you since 1999 the everyday politicians have failed Nigerians, and so people are now beginning to say, look, forget about the normal politicians. Why don't you bring people, technocrats that we know that can work? So that's where you would say that the man fits the ball.
No, but let's face it, politically speaking now, other than Lagos State and probably for people, lawyers like you, his name does not really ring a bell in this country.
In Nigerian politics, your name does not need to ring a bell. Who was Goodluck Jonathan before he was nominated as vice president? His name, even as a deputy governor, his name never really rang a bell. Even as governor, Obasanjo single-handedly made him governor. Who was he? Who was Namadi Sambo? How many people knew Namadi Sambo before he became vice president? And so, in the same vein, Obasanjo was popular, yeah, but apart from the GDM family and the inner caucus of Yaradua, how many people knew Atiku Alhaji Abubakar Atiku?
The PDM family.
The PDM family. How many people knew Alhaji Atiku Abubakar in Nigeria pre-1999? So these factors really will begin to look at them and say, yes, Nigeria really, the man is unknown. But the main political actors in what you're looking at the popularity of Buhari in the north, and then also looking at the popularity of Tinubu in the southwest. And so this is an associate of Tinubu, a fallout of the Tinubu's school of thought. And so that's all you need.
Something else I have to ask you is, some people had thought that the APC was going to consider, and some people have made the point that the APC probably should have considered the southeast of the country because, just give them that sense of belonging and try to get... We know the southeast is a stronghold of President Goodluck.
Yeah, it wasn't going to be possible because if you look at the APC largely has its roots in the southwest, and then also now with an alliance with the north. And so you don't expect the party to give the presidential ticket to a northern candidate and then leave out its roots and give the vice presidential ticket to the southeast simply because they want to divide the vote in the southeast. You definitely want to associate with the roots, because the question consistently also, mind you, had been what is the benefit of the southwest in the administration of President Jonathan. And so these people are people that have consistently, if you remember, even during the Osun election, asked the same question. And so when you now also give the ticket of the vice presidential slot to the southeast, you also be telling your people that you have asked, we have no stake in PDP, that also you don't have a stake in this party. And so to that end, they will weigh the option. The national chairmanship had gone to the south, and the vice presidential ticket, which is the second most powerful, should naturally go, to where they have their roots. And then if they eventually win, they might consider giving the Senate presidency to the southeast.
I'm just wondering, because of what we saw in the case of Yaradua here, and don't you think this could upset the whole principle of zoning in the country? Even though I'm not a disciple of zoning.
Exactly.
We know, should there be a force majeure like we had in the case of Yaradua passing away? God forbid, we do not pray anything happens to Buhari, but just in case, let's just assume the APC won the presidential election next year and, Buhari comes to power, and there's some kind of force majeure that Buhari had to give way, Osinbajo automatically becomes the president. And so it means it upsets the whole principle of zoning meaning the president will be coming from the southwest of the country.
Even as it is, for me, I really don't care where the president comes from, provided you're able to provide the basic necessities of life. And what Nigerians actually want, it's that, no, I don't think, you know, the average Nigeria care where the president also comes from. But if it happens and the vice president steps in and is able to steer the ship of the nation, you know, away from murky waters, I think they probably have the arrangement. They might still go back to that same arrangement and say, okay, for the sake of equity, let us go back. Let us not resort to what happened during the Yaradwa's time, be with just zoning or no zoning. And then also the way things are going, I think they might probably just give Buhari one. If he wins, he might want to rule for just one time, like
you never can say that.
Like Mandela, Nelson Mandela.
You never can say that.
You never can say Nigerian
President
politics.
Jonathan actually said he was going to do one term.
You know, but anyway, when President Jonathan was saying it,
Liberals, I'm just going to ask you to hold on, because we're going to. Someone is actually going to join us now, but let's look at some other issue. Now, all the political parties in Nigeria are putting finishing touches now to their preparation for next February's presidential election. Now, the candidates have hit the campaign trail and political activities are beginning to really heat up. But all of this comes against the background of the Boko Haram insurgency, which is not showing any sign of slowing down at all. The sect has been carrying out a series of suicide bombings in the north of the country, especially the northeast. Now, villages, I should say, are still being attacked. The latest is the attack on Gumsiri village in northeast Borno State, where 30 villagers were killed and over 100 reportedly abducted. Now, despite assurances from government, there are real fears the election will be very much affected by the insurgency. For instance, carrying out political campaign rallies in some parts of the country would be very dangerous business. Good example, the northeast of the country. Now, such large gatherings are usually potential targets of suicide bombers, as we have seen lately. Now, voting too in areas where the sect is active could be a very serious problem. Joining me now, I should say joining us actually, to discuss this and other issues, because I still have Liberal Soshoma right here in the house. But Temitope Olu, the security expert and public affairs analyst, joins us from London via Skype. Temitope, thank you very much for joining us on the program. Of course, I believe you were listening into our discussion the other time, but let me just ask you, as a security expert, tell me, how difficult do you think it will be for politicians to campaign, say, for instance, in the northeast of the country?
It will be quite difficult, and we don't need to look that far away. We could look at what has happened in Afghanistan, Pakistan, even in Iraq, when elections are being held. And when you're dealing with an Islamic insurgency, as it is the case in Nigeria, where these individuals are against anything westernized and against, those, they want an Islamic caliphate, they will definitely be targeting those kind of environments. So it's not even advisable to hold elections in those kind of environment. If Nigeria was a country where things were done rightly in law, people could even resort to postal voting, where they would have been registered long before. We knew this incident had been happening for a long time. Nigerian government and INEC could have been thinking of innovative approach to voting in those kind of areas where these incidents are happening. So they could have looked at postal voting and things like that, but they've never thought of that. And there are different schools of thought. There are schools of thought that believe that some people don't even want election to hold in those areas because it will be counterproductive for their party, while others believe that this is another political interplay by some groups. So whichever way you look at it, ordinary Nigerians are suffering, and they will not also have a right to vote, to be able to express their positions on the situations in the country at the moment.
But let me ask you, whether we like it or not, the government has said elections will take place in those areas, in the northeast, yes, even in areas controlled by Boko Haram. And we've been promised that, before the election, the army would have taken absolute control of those places. But Should a politician now want to organize a political rally, say in a place like Maiduguri, what exactly do you think they should be thinking about? And what kind of arrangement do you think they should be making? Because as we have seen with the Boko, with the recent suicide bombings in the country, political rallies could become potential targets.
Yeah, they are, and I totally agree with you. I think one of the things that should have been looked at a long time ago is issue of urban security management, and that seems to be non-existent. Where you're looking at crowded places, those are potential areas for targets. And you've noticed in Nigeria, it is one of the only countries in the world where you bomb a place, you return back there in 3 weeks, and you could bomb it successfully, because there is a mindset of the people that seems to have authority over security management, that it's about putting soldiers on the in those places, or storming the place with loads of hardware. And that is not the case. It's about intelligent management. It's about tension management. It's more about making sure that everybody coming into those environments understand the importance of security. So rallies could be held, of course. If you want to hold a rally in a market, say for example in a stadium, you could make 3 or 4 streets away from that place a car-free zone. So no cars will park 3 streets away, both north, east, south, west, and then people will come in through a corridor, and then you could be able to check them, and you could manage it. It's possible. They've done it with Olympics, with war games in different countries around the world. So rallies could be held successfully. And if I was advising, I would be saying you don't need to hold very, very big rallies. You could hold town hall meetings. You could, do different ways of campaigning. You could have leaflets given out. You could have newsletters given out in local languages, so people know what you're doing. So they don't need to wait till when they hold a rally for 100,000 people before they know that they've actually made an impact in terms of passing forward their message.
Okay, I'm just going to pause you there, because let me bring in Libros here. Just hold on. I'll come back to you, Temitope.
Okay.
He's just said something that you don't need to hold big rallies and all of that, but we also know that in this country, the larger your rally, the more believability it has, and most times candidates want to actually show off and really intimidate their opponents with such huge and large rallies.
I've consistently asked this question. If there were as many people to vote for a candidate as there are at his rally, nobody will lose election. But you find out that it is the same people that go for party A, that will go for party B, that will go for party C, because we know that they are rented crowd. And there's something germane that Temitope just said. You can, if you start this work early, you can do without rallies. You just hold town hall meetings and pocket of meetings where you address these people, and which is easier to manage. And so, but when you wait to hold these massive big rallies in the stadiums, and yet you are not able to pay attention to the minutest detail in as far as security is concerned, at the end of the day, you will just be asking people to go commit suicide.
But don't you think this will be giving some kind of moral victory now to the terrorists? If for instance, we're scared to hold rallies,
whether we like it or not, we've given moral victory to the terrorists. Situations where terrorists have, taken territories, hoist their flags, and driven away emirs and what else do you expect? In situations where even our armies are being sent to go and die, and then you see some of them retreating because there are no weapons, and then terrorists overrunning our army. What a moral victory? What else do you expect them to do? And so what we need now is much more than just grandstanding. We need to hit the ground running. We need to change our approach and strategies.
Are you saying you do not believe the government when it says, because the government has actually come out to say, look, there'll be even the chief of defense staff has actually come out to say that elections. I listened to him.
I listened to him when he said it. He said it as though he was joking. I listened to him. I was angry the way he said it. It was as if he was joking over the matter. That's the way this the army hierarchy sees the situation. To them, it's all a joke. It's all a huge joke, and that is why people are dying in droves. And yet every day, that's had been a recurring story. we're on top of the situation. We advise everybody to go about their normal duty. Oh, the insurgents are lying. Oh, they have not done this. They have not done that. And we know consistently that it is the effort of the local vigilante that is yielding the results that we are seeing. But army will come because the local vigilantes do not have access to the press. And so the army will come and take credit for all of that. Our army needs this. They need to change tactics. The government need to truly be sincere in fighting this insurgent. This is the same army that have gone to Congo, that have gone on different peacekeeping, and yet they came out with laurels. How come internally we are not able to solve the problem?
But tell me, for you, how much do you think this could affect the election? And some people have suggested this might also be bad news for the opposition as well, because some of these areas are areas the opposition
all of these areas it's controlled by the opposition. And so you will not also rule out the fact of those that are consistently said, look, the federal government is foot dragging because they know when elections don't hold or elections hold and a lot of people are not allowed to vote, are not able to vote, and then at the end of the day you return, you know, massive figures from these places and you say yes, elections were conducted. The next thing you will hear is let the loser go to court, because we are used to hearing such here. And so also it might be a ploy by the government in power to ensure that intentionally people are disenfranchised, so you return massive votes from this
but of course areas. We also know,
and at the end of, because
even the Senate has asked the Independent National Electoral Commission to actually establish special polling units for internally displaced persons.
It is not enough to just say establish. You need to set up a legal framework to actually make sure that these people are able to vote, because you're talking about internally displaced persons from Borno, some from Adamawa, some from all over the places, and these are people who have registered in their villages, in their ward, in their polling unit. So how do you now bring them together under one legal framework? Are you going to say, look, okay, this we have measured the polling unit in Adamawa and in Borno state? There is no legal framework. It's just let me go
promise. Let me go back to you, Temitope, and you suggested, for instance, that politicians don't really need to organize big rallies in most of those places. But I just asked Liberals, and let me ask you that question again. Don't you think if politicians, if we decide not to hold big rallies, we decide to just make our rallies in these areas low-key, don't you think that will be sending a moral victory to the terrorist?
No, in fact, no. It's not until you hold big rallies around the world, the countries like the United Kingdom, where I am now, United States, they hold rallies. But politicians normally should be in the midst of their people. They should be able to walk, knock on the door, talk to them, get their frustrations, listen to them. What our politicians do is sit in Abuja or wherever they are, give money to some godfather, in some places that distribute those money within their political hooligans. And those are the people that tend to, ensure and, just like what my colleague said in the studio, hire people and things like that. But in true democracy, you should be in contact with your people 24 hours. They should be able to send messages to Parliament. You should be able, and that's why you see when you see people like David Cameron, when you see people like Obama talk, when they give speech, they mention names. They say, oh, this guy that lives in this place had this problem and I dealt with it this way. How many of our politicians could actually come out and say, this is what I've done in this, my constituency? I'm not saying they're not doing anything, but they don't have that connectivity. And if you have that connectivity, you don't need to hold big rallies to be able to hire people, to be able to show that your farm is bigger, or your crowd is bigger than other crowd. At the election poll on the day, you will get the result that you want. So I don't think people, because of their own selfish agenda, should put the risks of ordinary Nigerians or put people's life at risk by holding an election where elections should not hold. And that is the gospel truth. I know it's painful. I know it's people will feel that they're not getting opportunity to cast their vote. But it's better that you are safe than sorry.
But do you think Because the Nigerian government has said, look, elections will take place everywhere in the country, including those areas that Boko Haram is active in. Do you think the people there will be motivated to come out to vote, especially now that, for instance, we have a northern candidate on the ballot? That's the candidate of the opposition party.
People will definitely vote. The question here is, will the number correlate with the people that vote, which is what my colleague in the studio mentioned, because what we're going to see is loads of votes, and either the main party or the opposition party or other parties will come out to dispute it in an election tribunal on the basis that the ballot was stuffed and things like that. So, and this is the reason why I say INEC should have been doing a lot of homework, because this has been happening for 4 or 5 years. They know that there is going to be risk. They know that emergency rule have been introduced more than 3 or 4 times. So they should have a contingency plan to say, this is how we're going to do this. Not with show of power, not with show of force, but they should have had plans, different alternative approaches. Look at what has been done in Pakistan, in other countries. Nigeria seems to be the only country where they don't learn lessons from other places. We should look at what other people have done and see how we could do it. People will definitely come out. The question is if all the political parties will accept the verdict of the count that comes out from that election.
And even if people want to come out, do you think they'll get enough protection from the government, from the troops?
I have confidence in Nigerian military, because I have confidence in Nigerian security services that if they want to, they might bring up to 50,000, security personnel, and have the whole place cornered up. So what you might find out is that there might just be 1 or 2 gunshots, but not really any serious bombing on the day of election, even if those guys are planning it.
Now, sorry to interrupt you, but let me just ask you this very important question. How difficult would it be, for instance, for security agents to spot a young lady, for instance, a teenager, as we have seen in the past weeks in Nigeria, wearing the hijab and probably walking into a polling unit to say, she wants to vote, and she's strapped with a suicide vest, for instance, and then she gets there and detonated. How difficult do you think it will be to spot such kind of people? Because we've seen that over the past weeks.
It should not even happen. In the first place, it's not that difficult to do that, because there are different initiatives and different approaches that could be done. We know that we're talking of a more prominently Muslim environment, so men and women will not be voting at the same time. So different initiatives could be put on board. Now, if you're coming to vote, and you're going to be wearing the whole, it could be restricted, because this is the issue of hijab is something of a cultural issue, not really that religious, although some people have made it so. So you could say, okay, if you are coming to vote,
take off your hijab.
This is what we expect. You should not be carrying a bag. You should only be holding this, So it is possible. And remember that they will be checked, maybe 300 meters, 500 meters away from that environment. So it is possible that I'm confident that nobody will get to the polling place to try and vote and then explode. It's not going to happen, because they should have they should have women, in place. They should have bomb detecting equipment in place, in those kind of places. And because we're only concentrating on 3 states now and specific polling station, one of the things that should be done, which is some of the things I have done, is that you do what you call attention monitoring analysis. So you do a profiling. Which polling station is likely to have a terrorist attack? You could do that profiling and then do a strategic resourcing based on that analysis. Our security service get a lot of intelligence. They could look at those intelligence, sort them out, and say, okay, this police station 102 is likely to be a place that will be bombed. So that is where we're going to put more resources. This police station won't have this problem, but they might have gun shooting, or they might have vehicle-related bomb attack. So this is the kind of equipment we'll move there. So it's about strategic resourcing. It's about having it all planned out. And they should not be doing that 2 days to the event. They all should be done before that. Coupled with the fact that I've been involved in security mapping. Now, one of the things that Boko Haram and all those other groups will be doing is coming in military uniform, mapping out, coming in military cars to try and, disguise and get to those places. So when you have pre-briefing and you've changed the colors, or you have certain things that certain people will wear and nobody will know that until the last 24 hours, then it's not possible for Boko Haram to be able to infiltrate those groups. These are the kind of things that I'm expecting that Nigerian Security Service will be doing, not waiting to the last minute and everybody is wearing the same police uniform. You could say this police will be wearing white, this one will be wearing black, this one will be having red ribbons, this one will be having special cars with special numbers. And that's the way to do it. If you do it that way, then I promise you that the election will hold and people will be able to cast their vote.
All right, Temitope, I perfectly understand you.
It's more about firefighting.
I perfectly understand you, but Temitope, I'm just going to ask you to hold on because you're going to stay with us on this program. We'll be going to another segment, but let me just quickly ask you, Liberos, before I let you go now. I mean, all those things is identified, quite good, but do you think we have actually started working on those now? Do you think we've started putting contingency plan in place just in case?
I told you I listened to the Chief of Defense Staff, and then the way he said the elections will hold, he was even laughing. And then he shows that truly these people are not truly sincere. There is nothing on ground. If there were things on ground, by now our army would not be retreating. You find out that the army would have been advancing against Boko Haram. A situation where the army that is supposed to advance is retreating and being on the defensive, it shows that there's truly nothing on ground. And we're talking about 6 weeks to election. By now, even if, most of these things will not be too obvious, but you would have seen, with the recapturing of most of these captured villages, and then the credit going to the Nigerian army and not to the local vigilante, we would have said, yes, the army had changed its strategy. But we see how the local vigilante, now it's like, look, we will take our destiny in our own hands, since it is obvious that the national army cannot protect us. And so that's why even the governors are calling for the empowerment of the local vigilantes, and even the locals
in fairness to the army anyway, you don't expect the army to be everywhere. What's the population of the army? And
yes,
this is a vast area.
We're not talking about, Temitope just said something. It is no longer too fashionable to just send boot soldiers. There are equipments you can use. There are strategies you can use that at the end of the day, even if you have 5 boots on the ground, they will achieve more results than when you have hundreds.
Unfortunately, our time is up on this segment. I want to thank you very much for your contribution. Temitope, I'm going to ask you to continue to hold on because you're going to be part of the next segment. But Liberos Oshoma, thank you very much. I have to let you go at this point, and thank you very much for your contributions. Thank you for coming on the program. We'll take a short break now. When we come back, we'll be discussing something related as well. 54 Nigerian soldiers were recently sentenced to death by a military court-martial. So what exactly does that mean for the morale of troops fighting Boko Haram? Stay with us, don't go away. Every day, every hour, and every minute, news break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on DEJI360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decisions.